I'm exhausted. I'm going to go home. I didn't go home. I'll have one drink and I'll go. I'm not a one drink kind of gal. That's just not what it is. I remember 3 double Don Julios on the rocks. My doubles were always triples. That's what I remember. I've seen a few videos of that. My friend was here from LA and I was going to a party, but my car was taking me home. I was less than a mile away from my house. I guess I fell asleep. I think I was already blacked out. Definitely probably already blacked out. But here comes a tree. And there goes my car.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Young and Sober. I am happy to have you here. I have my good friend Kayla on with me today, and I'm so happy that I finally got her on the podcast. But we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. We are actually getting ready to close out season 1, and then a couple months off, and we'll start season 2. So I'm super excited for what's coming for Young and Sober. Today we're here with Kayla, and we're going to talk about your story. Do you want to go ahead and start with your sobriety date?
Yeah, so October 1st, 2024. It was February 25th, 2023. I came into the program and I really thought I'm never going to be the one to relapse. I didn't relapse off alcohol, so I never really counted it as that. I take prescription medication and it pretty much does the same things. It hits the neurotransmitters in your brain and it's like you're on alcohol. So I started taking too many of those and I had to come to the realization and change that date. Now, I am 3 years without alcohol.
Was your drug of choice alcohol, or was it other things as well?
It was alcohol and cocaine. The alcohol was to start and the cocaine was to continue. Once I started doing the cocaine, I was like, oh, I can drink more because I'm sober again.
Unfortunately, I found out that doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. It took me about 5 years.
How old were you when you picked up your first drink?
I'm going to say like maybe 12, 13. I remember going to a party with my dad. He requested that I drive home. I'm like, I don't have a learner's permit. I can't drive. He was wasted. I'm thinking to myself, I've snuck beers behind your back. I can't drive either. I'm going to jail tonight. When I got home, I felt just all power to me. I was just like, I'm 13, I drove, I drank, I got away with it, and then I made it home safely. And I don't know, maybe that's where it all started, and like unresolved trauma for sure.
What do you think the drive and the inkling was of sneaking beers behind your dad's back in the first place? Why did your 13-year-old brain tell you that's a good idea?
I was just like watching everyone have a good time. My father's Venezuelan, my mom's very Southern, she was born and raised here. So I was at a Spanish party with my dad and I'm watching everyone get absolutely wasted. And I'm like, that looks fun. I was like, what's a couple beers going to do? And then I started going 14, 15, 16. My father was part of Rotary Club and I would go to Pi, meet him on Wednesdays. I remember slapping my ID down at 21 to the bartender that had been serving me forever. And he was just like, Kayla, I thought you were in your 30s. And I was like, wow, I'm highly offended right now because 21. I think everyone was just having a really good time. And I was like, I want to experience that.
Was there ever any cue that it was a problem when you were younger? Or
No.
was it decently normalized?
It was pretty normalized. I went online, I ordered fake IDs, and it really worked for me. I found a liquor store. It's no longer there. They stopped IDing me after a few times. I started making money from it because I'd sell alcohol to my friends. That started probably like 16, 17.
Was there a certain relief or like feeling that you got when you drank? Were you escaping something or were you just drinking because it was fun?
I think in the beginning it was more for fun, and then it turned into me escaping. I didn't know the difference.
Yeah.
The fun was in the first few drinks. The escape started like happening and I started realizing that I wasn't remembering my drives home. I was still living with my parents and they're yelling at me at the time that I'm coming in, or I'm not coming home at all, or I'm ending up in a different city, or I've done so much blow on my 21st birthday that like I had been drinking for so long that I'm like, I'm going to do 21 lines. And I'm just like, I ended up in a whole different city watching the sun rise, and I'm like, okay, cool, this is normal. And then tweaking on the ride back because I ran out.
What were your friendships like throughout this time? Were you a destructive person when it came to your friendships?
I can sit here and say that I truly don't think I had friends. For me, I was always the giver because I wanted people to stick around. I was very fortunate during that time where my parents supported me and all of that. It was an endless amount of money, and it was, I'll buy your shots. I'll buy enough drugs to support all of us. Just don't leave. Getting sober for me was just kind of like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know how to have actual friends because I never had.
So, relationship as far as like significant others dating.
Ah! Absolutely horrible. I dated a drug dealer for 5 years on and off while he cheated on me. There was physical abuse, there was emotional abuse. That stemmed from a pattern, I believe, that came from my family, watching my parents interact.
Really quickly, what was the family dynamic like? Because I don't think we talked about that.
Yeah, no, my family's dynamic and still to this day is detrimental to my health. A comment that was actually said to me within this past week, you were a happier person when you were drinking alcohol and doing cocaine. Maybe you should try it again. And that came from a parent.
How did you handle that when you were younger?
Once it got to the escape part, I just was escaping all of that. I didn't care. I had a case of the Effets. I just didn't care what anyone thought. And I remember I had a lot of trauma towards my father. My dad married this woman. She was spending a bunch of his money. And so that was me. If she's going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I knocked out about 60,000 in about 6 months just on partying. I got highlighted colors of bank statements, and then the rest that was unhighlighted were ATM withdrawals. And I'm just like, oh, it was for this. I was so quick to like lie.
Were your parents easy to let you off, or were there any repercussions or like punishments?
I don't think I was ever punished. So I asked my mom, actually, I was like, if you saw that I was going through that, why didn't you put me through a rehab program or something?
So they had an inkling that you had a problem then?
I was in Miami. My dad and he goes, hey, let's go to lunch. And I was like, I have plans. He's just like, let's have lunch and then you can go about your day. I remember my friend sending me a pool party ticket to SLS. My dad goes, how did you get that? And I was like, oh, my friend bought it for me. And he goes, those aren't your friends. And I'm like, you don't know what friends are. And so we're walking out to our cars and he just stops and looks at me and hey, quick question. He goes, do you do cocaine? And I'm like, why would you even think of asking me that? Why would you even assume? And then I get in the car and I'm like, so where am I going to get it tonight? It was very much, I was taught how to lie to make sure I don't move my eyes when I lie.
They probably knew you were calling bullshit.
Absolutely.
They didn't want to deal with it.
They did not. I think they thought I might get worse. With my 2 drugs of choice, I don't think I could have gotten any worse.
So there was never a point where they sat you down and talked to you about your drug and alcohol problem?
I remember being 9 months sober and my dad still offering me money to go out after work. Yeah, he wasn't very supportive. My mom, on the other hand, she was really grateful. She still makes comments sometimes. Called her this past February and I was just like, hey, like I hit 3 years without any alcohol. And she's just like, well, hopefully you don't mess it up.
What did you do for support when you were younger?
My mom was really my support system. When I was 11, 12 years old, I remember I was telling my dad that I was going to my friend's house after school. Long story short is domestic violence, police were called. I remember seeing my mom being held up by her throat on the wall and her just looking over to me and being like, run.
It was your dad
holding up my mom on the wall. And she like turned her head enough to me to be like, run. Because I would get cornered. I remember being a child and like getting yelled at by my father and like peeing on the ground because I was so scared. And like at the point now where I'm like, I'm not scared. And also like, I'm not going to lie to you.
What were your feelings after seeing your mom and your dad like that?
When I heard my mom tell me run, I instantly ran because like she had never said that to me before. And luckily my best friend lived 4 houses down. So I broke the garage trying to get out because immediately after I started running, my dad started coming after me. The garage wasn't opening fast enough, and I don't know, super strength Kayla just ripped it off. And then I still to this day, I could have won the Olympics at how fast I ran, and just banged super hard on my friend's door, told them to call the police. The police showed up. My mom and I lived in hiding for a while. I watched my mom stay with my dad, but my mom was staying out of my safety. But I didn't see that or understand that as a kid. I saw, you're taking this is normal, not normal. Followed through, so my past relationship, it followed through into that, and I stayed for a really long time. I escaped jail more than I could count on both of my hands. I have gone to jail. That was on my own for physical altercation wise, or just me being drunk or high out of my mind. I got really lucky, especially with the activities that I decided to put myself in.
Now we're in timeline wise between, let's say, 15 to 18.
Okay.
Walk me through it.
I don't really remember much about 15. I know when I was 13 or 14, my dad bribed me to move back into the house after my mom and I were in hiding. It was all financial based. I'll get you this, you can do this. 15, 18, roughly summarized, I raised myself. My mom ended up moving back into my dad's home because she knew that I was home by myself every night. I dealt with a lot of body dysmorphia, to look a certain way, I had to dress a certain way, I had to say the right things. We would go to parties. I get prompted before we'd go in, make sure you're telling them you're going to med school. Didn't even know who I was. Like I mentioned earlier, the past 7 days have been quite rough for me. My dad goes, "You're not the daughter that I thought I wanted." That came along with the, you were happier when you were drinking and doing drugs.
Do you feel like your alcoholism was genetic, or do you feel like it was just environmental?
I would like to say environmental. My mom's not an alcoholic. She drinks wine. She is very much a lightweight. She is not like her daughter. My dad is more of just like a social drinker. Then my mom's side of the family, they were very much like going Christian, no bad words. Couldn't even say the word fart. That is where it was. Like, so I don't feel like my alcoholism came from them. I would just have to pinpoint and say environmental.
What were some of the big scary moments?
I would drive to a whole nother city because I ran out of cocaine. The person I was seeing at the time, I knew he would have it. And even if we weren't talking or whatever, I knew the house code to get in. And I would go grab my stuff, which was not mine, and maybe leave money, maybe not leave money, and then just get a bunch of negative feedback from that. I'm going to see my way out now with the stuff that I came for. Thanks, bye. I didn't recognize it, but I definitely knew it was a problem.
What are some of the other like big key moments, not even maybe that you recognize, but maybe the people around you started to recognize, like Kayla might be falling off the deep end?
I had a girlfriend and we were sitting at a restaurant that I went to all the time. I'd always force her to go with me. And she was just like, every time we go, Kayla, you just end up getting hammered. And I'm like, dude, it's fine. Let's just go have a nice dinner and like we'll order a couple bottles of wine and enjoy girls' night. Well, girls' night ended up ending real quick when I just picked up, paid the bill, and decided I was going to drive to Sarasota. She didn't speak to me for a very long time. That right there was probably one of the biggest moments that I was just like, okay, something isn't right here.
Why was it that moment? Because like in my head, like I'm hearing that, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound that bad. Like
it didn't.
What was the reason behind picking up and going to Sarasota that she had hit her breaking point to not speak to you anymore?
But she had stuck by my side. I think she just got tired of my crap, and I didn't feel it when I left for Sarasota. But when I got a call the next morning, and it was Thanksgiving, and my parents are like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "Where am I?"
Why did you go to Sarasota in the first place? What
my friends were down there.
Okay. So you left your one friend at the bar, literally just picked up and walked out and were like, bye.
And I said, I'm going to Sarasota. I'll see you when I get back. She was my only like actual friend at the time, besides like my party friends. I didn't, like I said, like I didn't really have friends, but she was the one. Still to this day, I wish I could get in contact with her because I owe her like the world's biggest apology. She was the friend that would knock on my bedroom window and hold up the boombox that was her phone and sing to me that you would see in movies. I think just like seeing me out in public, seeing me get out in fights, seeing what I dealt with, all the stuff that like I introduced to her and had her around. And then the fact that I like planned something with her, and then just like if I was her, I would have felt like really disposable.
I agree. What kind of drunk were you?
I was a really fun drunk until you said the wrong thing to me.
You just mentioned getting in fights, so I was curious like what that meant.
You looked at me the wrong way, so I have a natural RBF. If someone else with an RBF came out and just looked at me the wrong way, I'm going to walk up to you and be like, do you have a problem? And that was the drunk that I was, because more than likely they didn't have a problem with me. I had a problem with the way their face looked, and I was just projecting like how I felt in that moment. And it really didn't have anything to do with them. Felt like I just needed to get out anger, and it was like some sort of like entertainment for me, and like I didn't bring it home.
It sounds like throughout your childhood you had a lot of pent up rage, and then you add alcohol and drugs to the mix, and it's no proper coping or no way to get the anger out. I'm hearing it's a common theme that people tend to be very angry drunks when they have situations like that.
And I really wasn't always angry. I could go out and have a great time. And it was that switch. The moment that switch flipped, I was no longer Kayla. You had no idea what was going to come at you.
Were you like fist fighting people?
Oh, yeah. I used to run a bar, and my employee was like in a fight, and I hopped on the bar, and I remember just I would get drunk at work, and I just kicked the person's face in with my foot. Like I said, you really didn't know what you were going to get from me at all. It's definitely not something that like I'm proud of, but it's something that I'm glad that I grew out of. I'm still working with the whole anger part and like coping mechanisms.
Do you find that even now that you're sober, that's still something like you have to watch for that switch?
Absolutely. That's how I relapsed.
Okay. What was your job situation?
My
throughout,
mom
throughout addiction?
I've always worked in bars. It's quick money, and I've managed a few, and I got to drink for free. My mom made a comment. She goes, Kayla, you used to always go into work and always make it to your shifts. And she's like, now that you're sober, she was like, you're really quick to call out. And I'm just like, well, I'm tired or I hurt. I don't have that thing to take away and like numb my body and make it through until 4:30 in the morning.
When you're sober, it was really hard for me to find balance again. It's quite difficult to figure out when your body needs to rest and when you need to push through and get something finished.
My difficulty with rest is, am I resting or am I depressed? I always want to be on the go. I've always been on the go. I don't want to sit. I don't want to be stagnant. And in sobriety and in this current moment, I feel stagnant. I had to take medical leave from school this semester because I had no ambition to get up. A month ago, I went 4 days without showering and 5 days without eating. And I would get up and make sure that my dog would like pee and poop, and that was it. And then right back to the couch. People have this idea in their head like, oh, I get sober and everything gets better. It's like, fun fact, no, that's not true. You work your 12 steps, you go through the program, and then there you are. A constant thing that constantly goes through my brain is, am I making the right choice or making the wrong choice? I don't know.
I feel like in a way with what you just said, sobriety opens the door and clears the path to see what are the next things that you need to start to work on.
That's where I'm at right now, is I am over here. I know something's not right here. There's no alcohol. There's no cocaine. There's been none of that for 3 years. What's still going on up here that I can't figure out, that this 12-step program hasn't figured out? Do I have BPD or am I bipolar? Those are two things that I've been juggling around, and I've been asking my therapist for probably almost 6 months now, and he's just like, I don't really see it. I'm like, but you don't see me at home.
Yeah.
I don't think mental health is talked about enough in like any program.
Almost in any aspect of life, period.
Absolutely. To think about a world of where people could have access to affordable help for their mental state, we probably wouldn't have as many issues as we do now.
I totally agree. Tell me about the events leading up to when you decided to get sober.
I didn't decide. It got decided for me.
Who decided for you?
The courthouse. Leading up to that, I had worked 80 hours. I had got asked to go out with some of my employees and my coworkers, and I said no automatically. I'm exhausted. I'm going to go home. I didn't go home. I'll have one drink and I'll go. I'm not a one drink kind of gal. That's just not what it is. I remember 3 double Don Julios on the rocks. My doubles were always triples. That's what I remember. I've seen a few videos of that. My friend was here from LA and I was going to a party, but my car was taking me home. I was less than a mile away from my house. I guess I fell asleep. I think I was already blacked out. Definitely probably already blacked out. But here comes a tree. And there goes my car and my bladder. I tried to flee the scene. So I'm like, where am I? Okay, all my airbags are out. I get out of the car. I try to start running. I just remember sitting in a ditch. That night for me was like white smoke, airbags, sitting in a ditch, maybe partial ambulance ride, being in the hospital, screaming at the police, telling them that my dad was going to come get me, that they couldn't do anything to me, and then being rolled back in a wheelchair and looking back at my parents and just saying a bunch of things that I regret, and none of it was "I love you." Meanwhile, the doctor came out and told my mom that if I would have not had surgery then, I probably would have not lived. That was supposed to be my wake-up call. I stayed sober 6 months by choice after that.
Were there any legal things that had happened?
Yeah, so those 6 months, I had moved out to this 3-acre property, and I just wanted like peace and solitude. My aunt got diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer super fast, and she had to move here from Tampa and moved into my mom's house. The emotional aspect of it, like I just knew I couldn't handle it. I found this place on Craigslist and it was great while it lasted. I had just left my mom's from seeing my aunt, and it was a 45-minute drive. Getting ready to go to work at the bar, mom calls screaming, "You're going to jail. The cops just came in and raided my house. They were going to arrest me for holding a fugitive. They were going through my closets trying to look for me." And my mom's like, "She's not here." So they leave. I'm like, "Mom, please stop messing with me. Like, it's been 6-7 months now. Like, why am I going to jail now?" I finally heard it in her voice. I was like, oh, okay, she's being serious. And I will never forget the deathly screech that just projected from my mouth, because I was like, my life is over. I've done some crazy stuff in my life that like could have put me in jail. Why now? Big question for me was why. I showered, I went to jail, turned myself in, I bailed myself out before I went. I was there for 5 hours, and thankfully my uncle's an attorney. I got placed in drug court program. I had to put in the work, and I didn't want to put in the work because I didn't realize that I had a problem. But after I went to jail, I started picking up drinking again. I didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
And so once I got into this program and I realized that I had to call every day and spit into a tube, but I had all eyes set on, you make it 365 days, you can drink that wine collection you have. You can go back and do your Tuesday night dinners and your Sunday night dinners.
You thought everything was going to go back to normal. So you went 6 months without drinking, and then did it get very bad?
Oh, yeah. I remember going to this hole-in-the-wall bar with random people that I didn't know. I'm out of my mind, drunk, whatever, and my bill was $500. And that was like a normal thing.
How'd you get sober?
February 20th, 2023 was my last hurrah. That's my birthday.
Did you go in knowing that was the last time you were going to drink?
Absolutely not. It was a complete shit show. But my case manager calls me and goes, "Hey, I need you in my office on February 25th. I remember my first question to her was, "So when do I have to stop drinking?" And she goes, "Oh, well, you're in my office. So today, you're taking your first test today."
Did they not drug test you while you were in drug court?
This is entering drug court.
Okay. So
That was my first
you had your
time.
accident. They didn't do anything until 6 months later.
Mm-hmm. November 30th, 2021. Sober for 6 months, went to jail, picked up drinking again. Then, my attorney got on there and then started pushing back my date, and then finally got entered it into drug court into February 25th, 2023.
Was this the first time you'd been arrested?
Yes. The thing I think about now is how concerned I was with what everyone else was going to think.
Can you explain what drug court is?
Drug court is something that you can apply for. You have to fill out paperwork. You pretty much list all the drugs you've ever done in your entire life. You go every Thursday to court. You meet in front of the judge. Every Tuesday, you had group therapy. You had to do 4 12-step meetings per week.
Yeah.
But drug court was really just trying to establish responsibilities, maintain them, make sure that, like, if you can follow a program for 365 days, like, you have your success stories. And then I know quite a few people that have died that were in drug court with me. And then I've also served at the bar people that were in drug court with me. And I will tell you, that is very awkward.
How long have you been off coke since this point?
Way before I stopped drinking.
What were some of the biggest behaviors you started to see show up in your sobriety that you had to work on?
Oh, I'm still working on active listening, communication, honesty in the right.
Did you find out that, like, in sobriety you were a pretty manipulative person, not only just an addiction?
I realized that I could be super spiteful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was drinking, like, that wasn't a quality or characteristic that I thought, like, I just flip of the switch type of deal.
Yeah.
No, I hurt someone very near and dear to me. Thankfully, we're still together today. But my spitefulness, like, really bit me in the ass. And that was when I decided, Kayla, you better do your 12 steps. Start listening to what people are saying. I'm still working on things.
Yeah.
What is this life? Like, who are you? I wrote something the other day and, like, I'm still trying to figure out who I am. I just turned 29 years old and, like, I don't know who I am. And I don't know who I am because I messed up my brain for so long, but, like, then we have the mental health aspect. And I'm still in the mindset of 19-year-old Kayla because, like, my life kind of stopped there.
Yeah. Now that you're 3 years sober from alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
you work at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, have you had thoughts about picking up a drink during this time? Second of all, how have you made it through this much turmoil and not picked up a drink?
So when I walk through those doors of any bar that I work at, I'm there to make money. People ask me this question all the time. And I'm just like, self-control. You're also the entertainer. So, I'm there to serve you. And then sometimes, like, I battle that because I'm like, I'm getting these people absolutely belligerently messed up.
Yeah.
I went to a meeting the other day and I said, this was after my conversation with my father, with all the grotesque things that were said to me. I did not want to live. Definitely that comment struck me and I was just like, well, maybe I'll go have a Casamigos. Cocaine never crossed my mind, but the liquor sure did. But the moment I walk into work, yeah, no, absolutely not.
What has been the hardest part for you since getting sober?
Probably trying to figure out myself.
Why do you think that has been so hard?
My entire life, I've been a people pleaser. And now I'm trying to learn how to please myself. And the moment that I feel that I'm not pleasing the people that are surrounding me, whoever it may be, I start to feel myself shut down.
Yeah.
Just people pleasing. And then I have a bunch of abandonment issues.
Yeah.
Clearly from my childhood. So that's something I'm still working on. My dad took me for a 3-day stay vacation. It's 3. I remember my mom telling me and my grandmother telling me that I came home and I wouldn't talk for like multiple days and I wasn't eating. And they think that my dad locked me in like a dark room or something. I don't know what happened to me. I really don't know. But I can tell you at 29 years old, there better be a light on because I'm scared of the dark.
I'm going to ask a controversial question.
Okay, let's hear it.
If sobriety's been so tough for you, why not drink again? What about it sobriety has been good enough to keep you on this road?
Fear of failure. So I always think I'm going to fail at everything I do. And I'm like very sure that I cannot mess this up. I am so fearful of messing it up that like I requested to go to a meeting on a Friday night, and for me to request to go to a different meeting, I knew in that moment that like I had no control over myself.
In what way do you mean no control over yourself?
That was the day that I had the conversation with my father and I really just wanted to end my life. Who wants to go somewhere and just be like, hey, I want to end it all and say it to a room full of strangers and then end it with, I thought about drinking today, but I didn't. I asked to come to this meeting.
You had those feelings and you made the decision to go surround yourself with people who will help you.
It's not a common trend for me, though.
But that's what I mean. That's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's the right next step.
I also get to that self-centeredness of like, you have no idea what's going on in my brain right now. So don't tell me it's going to get better because you don't live my life.
It's hard not to go there.
Yeah.
It's really hard not to go there. Even if I tried to explain it to you, you'd probably look at me like I'm a psychopath.
Well, that's how I felt. And I'm pretty sure that's what I said. And I was like, I'm probably going to come off as a psychopath. I was choking on my own tears.
What are the coping mechanisms that you're beginning to pick up to try to help with your mental health situation?
I skydive, and that's something I picked up. The first time I jumped out, I was just over beautiful water in Key West. And I am like, wow, I am so small to this entire universe. And at the end of the day, like, the world doesn't revolve around me. Look out there to the horizon, and you don't even really know where you're looking. Like, you don't know where you are. You're 13,500 feet up in the air. It's a quick drop, but it's a very slow moment of feeling. And I had a question. I had to ask my therapist. I'm like, am I doing this like an alcoholic?
I was going to ask that next. Is your alcoholism showing up in things that aren't alcohol?
Yeah, absolutely. And he looked at me and he goes straight up, you are doing this alcoholically. He goes, but let me ask you a few questions. Are you paying your bills? And I said, yes. He goes, do you eat? And I was like, yes. Are you completing all of those tasks? And I was just like, yeah. He goes, I don't see a problem with it.
Did you go to college?
I got accepted to Ole Miss. My dad said, absolutely not, because you're not going to a party school. You can go to school here in Florida. My whole purpose was to get out of this place.
Yeah.
I wanted to escape the control.
You went to school here in Florida?
No, I joined the United States Army. It was one way or the other. Huge thank you to the service members that have served in our military. I got out in training. I don't like to claim that. Veterans Day comes around. My person's like, stand up, it's you. And I've had people that have been to war and they're like, Kayla, like, you signed the line.
Yeah.
Just because you didn't make it out. And like, people might not agree with this. I've been very blessed when people say that to me. They're like, you signed the line. You were going to put your life on the line for this country. In training, they teach you you're no longer a civilian. you're a soldier of the United States military.
Yeah.
I had to completely, real quick, change and rewire my entire brain.
Yeah.
So, like, when I came home, I had no idea who I was once again.
I almost think that would give you a blank slate to start with, but it sounds like it made everything a lot worse.
No, and I mean, you're taught to be one person, and like, I give it up to the people that, you know, have stayed, and that's their calling. And I've thought about rejoining. I take medication, so unfortunately, I can't.
I want to talk about your nursing school situation.
I got home from the military in October of 2015. January 2016, I got moved up to Gainesville and I was going to go to Santa Fe. I found the party life. I did all of that. And I ended up dropping out of school, moved to Miami, had my apartment in Miami, had my apartment in Gainesville, go back and forth. Had a roommate that was addicted to Xanax. Anytime that happened, I was like, peace out, I'm out. I was like, I want to do design school. I finally got my dad on board to that with that. And then that's when all like the bank statements came out.
Okay.
Yeah. So ripped from Miami back to Ocala. Took some classes at CF. Wasn't feeling it. Then I just started working in the bars, and I was already working in bars, but that's all I did. I made a bunch of money off of that. And then finally it got to a point. I can't even tell you when I started nursing school. I remember touring this school that I go to right after I got out of the hospital. So 2021.
After the hospital for the car accident.
I loved my trauma team. They were great. And I said, okay, well, if I'm not going to be a doctor, I could be a nurse. It's 2026. I'm still in nursing school. I think I started like April 2024, maybe. But
you're also tempering it at your own pace with your mental health in mind.
At this point currently, this is when I just now started going at my own pace.
Yeah.
And it's the only semester, this one and the next one. They were very generous to allow this for me. They looked at me and they said, you're not the class representative that was speaking like with this bold and like fearless attitude. You're sitting here and you're timid and you're scared, and you know, we're going to give this to you. And they're like, we don't do this. And I was just like, thank you so much. I took my first medical leave 2 semesters ago because I had a IUD that had this thing called actinomyces, which is extremely rare, and 1 in 11% of women get it. And I'm like, of course, it's me. I'm rare and special. I did 6 weeks of infusion therapy. I got really sick. I got really skinny. I couldn't eat. My skin was falling off my hands. Once that was done, I booked a trip to Key West, and then I started skydiving, and then I went back to school. The short, brief period of time that I had that I was actually trying to find myself and was genuinely happy, I felt like for the first time ever. The moment I walked in, like the first week, I was just like, oh, okay, cool, we're back. No, my body was back. My brain was not there. And so I made it to week 6. There's 11 weeks in the semester. Made it to week 6, and we have clinicals. I didn't go to one. They're very hard to get made up. And I knew that when I laid on my couch. That is when I realized that like my ambition and my drive and anything, I just knew I was depressed and that my mental health was just going down the drain.
Yeah.
I found this happiness and I was finding out like a new version of myself, not the version with the makeup or my hair down or like nice clothes. I grew up, say what people want to hear, dress how people want, do this. They don't care. And so I got to be like my true authentic self. And I had never really felt that before. And a lot of people don't know that skydivers, a lot of them are sober too. And that was something I didn't even know. But I don't think I was ready to go back to school. I think I was just like, finally.
You think that was a big enough trigger to send you into this big of a spiral?
It is the hardest semester out of all semesters of nursing school. I was taking pharmacology, like there's 250 drugs that you have to learn, like side effects and like XYZ, like how to not kill someone. Then 2 other classes, and one happened to be mental health. And that one was an extremely hard class for me to take. We would go to psychiatric hospitals and I'd hear the people like that don't have the same idea or understanding in their brain. They're like, oh, let's see what action we can see today. And I'm like, they're not zoo animals, man.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, if that's what people are thinking,
it's almost like you don't know how quickly you could be there.
I remember my professor looking at me and being like, if anything triggers you, I had to explain outpatient to her. And I'm like, it was exhausting coming home.
Yeah.
I remember it was my last clinical for mental health that I attended. And I was just staring at the ceiling because I'm over it. I don't want to be here.
What is your game plan going forward?
I look at school similar to my sobriety. I made the comment, I give up on everything. Once I cross that stage, when that day comes, it's going to be that same feeling of me holding up my certificate that I made it 365 days without alcohol, or holding up that coin. I followed through and I did it. So I'm going to take 1 class this semester, and then I'm going to take the other 2 with the other 2 clinical components the following semester. So I pushed my graduation date back again.
I think it's really good to see things through in sobriety.
Absolutely.
Mental health. What's your plan?
Continue with my therapy. Actually give the advice that I give to people and start writing down what I'm thinking. I would be lying to everyone on this podcast right now that's watching. I have not wrote down anything. That's something I have to start.
Yeah.
Because the other day was a huge wake-up call for me. Because they're just becoming more vivid, and that's scary.
Suicide ideation is a very real, very scary thing because it's almost like you don't control it.
Absolutely. And I've taken precautionary measures, when this has happened before.
You should be very proud of yourself for that. To be able to communicate to somebody that you're not doing too hot and they need to come remove items from you, that's huge.
Thankfully, my boyfriend, this go around this week, he goes, "You're not going home." And all I wanted to do was just go home. And he's like, "You're not going home. I refuse to let you go." He was very gentle when he said it. All I heard was, "You're going to sit here and you're going to be uncomfortable in this house that like you are actually comfortable in and like you always want to be at, because I'm not sending you home right now because you never asked to go home."
But you're allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
In a positive way. You want to get better and you don't want to feel like this. And you're not allowing yourself to be stuck in that feeling. And you're allowing yourself to be put in uncomfortable positions to be able to feel out your emotions safely around people that you trust.
I know that I am just very tired of feeling miserable. And that's when it comes to the sunshine and rainbows of getting sober. It's really not, because you have to learn all of these things. I'm teaching all of this to myself, like new things on how to handle situations. And I think a big thing for me is communication. And that right there is something that is my prime focus of mental health, learning how to communicate, because I self-sabotage real fast. Learning how to write down things, learning how to communicate in the proper way, learning to know when to walk away when it's time to walk away.
Mental health girl to mental health girl, I'm very proud of you.
Thank
Like
you.
it, because when you're in it, you don't see it.
So my therapist tells me all the time, and huge shout out to him because he's great. He goes, "You're still a newbie until like you're 5 years sober." And I'm like,
Shut up.
No, I'm not. And he's just like, "Kayla, then why are you coming to my office with the same problems?" He goes, "Because you're still learning." He goes, "You might have not drank alcohol for 3 years, but like, you still don't have a damn clue of what you're doing. You might have done the steps."
Are you grateful that you're sober?
Yes.
With everything that you have gone through, do you regret getting sober?
No. I used to ask myself, why did I get in that car accident? Why did I have to go to jail? Why was it me? And then finally, I was writing something. Now I just say thank you. And I thank God that accident happened because God only knows where I would be right now.
Yeah.
Maybe with him. Who knows? I don't know. I thank God that I'm still here. I thank God that I have the ability to not pick up the drink. I have the ability to walk into work and be surrounded by 50, 60 bottles of liquor and not have an inkling of wanting to pick up.
I want to know, do you feel like overall your life is better now that you're sober?
I feel like I make better choices. I feel like I just still have a lot of learning to do.
Yeah.
To actually sit here and say that I am genuinely happy. I am happy that I am sober. But I can't look at you in the face and sit in this chair and say that I am genuinely happy.
But that's okay. If this wasn't me sitting here and this was 14-year-old Kayla, what would you say to her right now at where you are in this stage of life?
You've made it this far. Keep going, even though you don't want to, because one day you're going to have a little 13 or 14-year-old you, and hopefully you know how to handle it better than the others that were surrounding me when I was 13 and 14 years old. And I'm happy that I'll never say that I'll never pick up a drink. I can't say that. But my 13, 14-year-old child in the future, like, I want them to see what I created being in recovery. I don't want them to see that version. I know that's one quality that I won't carry over from my childhood into someone else's. It's a really big thing for me to sit here and say that I'm proud of you, little Kayla, because I'm in this feeling of this moment of I'm not very proud of myself. I don't hold a lot of self-confidence. I can put on a face, and that's something I'm working on. But the fact that I'm sitting here at 29 years old and I'm sober, what would I say to her? I'm just like, you made it.
You tell her not to pick up a first drink?
I don't think I would tell her not to drink because I wouldn't be the person who I am today.
Yeah.
Now, if I could go back and just redo some things, that would be kind of cool.
What would you say to somebody who is wanting to get sober? And then what would you say to somebody who might be struggling very badly in sobriety right now?
All comes with time. And as long as you are patient, and patience is key. And you have to really understand, I'm not a patient person. So this has been a struggle for me. Making sure that you have the right people surrounding you and exiting yourself, the people, places, and things. I've told so many people, I'm like, give it 3 months. It took me 3 months to be able to change my patterns and not be hurt by it. And if you want it bad enough, you will maintain it. And if you spiral like I do, don't think that another drug or another substance or whatever it may be is going to be the cure, because at the end of the day, we can only help ourselves along with the people that are surrounding us. This podcast is helping. I get to sit here and interact with you. Don't give up, because it's really hard. And if anyone says, oh, it's so easy, It's not. But nothing good in life is easy. So,
What about someone who's walking the edge of whether they want to get sober?
why would you not? If your life is already so hard and so unmanageable, how much harder could it get? Plain and simple.
I love that.
Yeah. Life is hard regardless.
Your story is the difference of being sober versus being in recovery. And I would say you are in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
That is where you are at. And recovery is not the yellow brick road.
No.
I am very proud of you. And
I'm proud of you.
Well, we can be proud of each other.
I'm proud of you. You're 24. Like, when I found out how old you were and, like, the way you spoke, I'm like, finally, someone that can, like, maybe understand, like, my messed up brain.
And I absolutely do. Everything you said today, don't get it twisted. I'm still figuring it out.
No.
That's the beauty of this, though, is, like, we still get to grow.
We're never healed, but we're always healing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think your story is very vital to the sobriety community, and I think that a lot of people in sobriety will get a lot out of this. This will wrap up this episode of Young and Sober. Again, Kayla, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a blast.
Thank you, guys.
New episodes every Wednesday. I'm so happy you guys are here, and please go drink some water. Take care of yourselves. Do all the things that you need to do to make sure you're mentally stable for the rest of the week, because that is the number one important thing.
If you can't do it one day at a time, do it 10 minutes at a time.
That part. As always, Young and Sober for the sober confident, the sober curious, and the sober-ish. I love you guys so much, and I will see you next week. Love you. Bye.